Well, back here at home, Federal Finance Minister Bill Morneau will meet with provincial and territorial finance ministers in Ottawa tonight to discuss fiscal priorities around the country. For more on this, as well as other Canadian political news, let's bring in Michael Geoghegan. He is a political analyst based in Victoria. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
So this coming on the heels of the First Minister's meeting, what do you expect to take place here?
Well, certainly part of the First Minister's discussion, one of the things is going to be around the issue of interprovincial trade barriers and regulations. The public remains frustrated at the lack of progress. And certainly some premiers have been more progressive than others in terms of recognizing the need to reduce those interprovincial trade barriers. We still have barriers when it comes to buying, say, beer in one province and taking it to another. And even something simple, which Morneau himself has pointed out, the fact you have 13 different jurisdictions regulating hot water tanks means that we pay about a third more for water heaters than we otherwise would as consumers. So it does hit us in the pocketbooks when we can't get our act together as a country.
Absolutely. Do you think the oil crisis is also going to be a big feature in these conversations tonight?
Absolutely. Certainly Rachel Notley at the First Minister's Conference pushed for a discussion about that. There was a very large protest. Thousands of people protested in Calgary to make clear their opposition to Bill C-69,
right.
And they want to see that Trans Mountain pipeline go ahead, which of course puts Rachel Notley's NDP government at odds with the NDP government here in British Columbia. But it's certainly something that is devastating the Alberta economy and by extension the Canadian economy.
And I also think, and I'm sure you'll agree, that the carbon tax is also going to be an issue that's going to be back on the table, considering sort of where things went with the First Minister's meeting. Do you think... How do you think that relationship is unfolding? Morneau and Justin Trudeau are being accused of perhaps more lecturing rather than listening to the premiers on Friday at the First Minister's meeting. Do you think that's going to be different this time around, or is it going to be more like, here's what the government's plan is and we just need all of you to be on side?
Well, hopefully there's a bit more listening and a lot less lecturing. Certainly, provinces like British Columbia are doing quite well in terms of their fiscal position, which stands in contrast to where Ottawa is in terms of still running a significant budget deficit. So hopefully they're doing more in the way of listening, and clearly Canadians want to see some progress. And when it comes to things like carbon taxes, I think all the finance ministers need to recognize that the middle class and working class are really struggling to make ends meet. Grocery costs are skyrocketing. Housing costs have really skyrocketed. And so if you want to talk about a carbon tax that hits consumers, you also have to talk about tax relief, because Canadians simply can't go more into debt than they already are and do other things in order to struggle. So every new tax, you are literally taking food out of the mouths of consumers. So that is something I don't think that has quite come home to roost for a lot of the finance ministers, that the majority of Canadians are really struggling now in terms of living paycheck to paycheck. And I don't think that's really hit home yet.
Oh, no, exactly. And of course, in Toronto, or in Ontario, I should say, hearing with the closing of the GM plant, that's certainly, you're right, it is really hitting home pretty hard. Michael Geoghegan, a political analyst based in Victoria. Michael, a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.